The 11 most shocking and scandalous facts about Golda Meir. Golda Meir, known as the Iron Lady of Israeli politics, was a figure of monumental achievements and controversies. Born on May 3, 1898, in Kiev, and dying in 1978, in Jerusalem, she served as Israel's fourth prime minister from 1969 to 1974. Under her leadership, Israel navigated through periods of war and peace, solidifying her legacy as a foundational pillar of the Israeli state. This video delves into the 11 most shocking and scandalous facts about her life and career, revealing the complexities of a woman who was not only a political leader but also a symbol of tenacity and controversy. Fact number 1. Early espionage activities. Before rising to the top of Israeli politics, Golda Meir played a pivotal role in the Haganah, the main Zionist underground military organization, during the 1940s. While she held a position in the Histadrut, Israel's General Federation of Labor, Meir was intricately involved in espionage activities. One of her notable contributions was the smuggling of Jewish scientists out of Nazi-occupied Europe to Palestine, helping to save these vital intellectual assets from the clutches of the Holocaust. Her espionage activities also included facilitating the illegal immigration of Jews to Palestine, which was then under British mandate imposing strict immigration quotas. Through these covert operations, not only did she help in saving numerous lives, but she also contributed to the buildup of the scientific and intellectual community, which would later prove crucial for the newly forming State of Israel. Number 2. Secret meeting in disguise. In one of the most dramatic episodes of her career, Golda Meir secretly met with King Abdullah I of Jordan, dressed as an Arab woman. This meeting took place in 1947, shortly before the United Nations voted for the partition of Palestine, which would lead to the creation of the State of Israel. The aim was to reach a peaceful understanding with Jordan, as Abdullah was known to have territorial ambitions in the area designated as the Jewish state. The meeting was set in the King's Palace in Amman, facilitated by Abdullah El-Tel, a high-ranking official in Transjordan and former military governor of Jerusalem. Despite Meir's efforts, the discussions failed to avert the impending Arab-Israeli conflict which erupted following Israel's declaration of independence in 1948. This bold but ultimately unsuccessful diplomatic effort showcased her readiness to take extreme risks for peace. Number 3. Refusal to negotiate at Munich. During the Munich Olympics in September 1972, a Palestinian terrorist group named Black September took 11 Israeli athletes hostage. The demands were for the release of 234 prisoners from Israeli jails. Golda Meir, who was the prime minister at the time, faced an agonizing decision and chose to adhere to Israel's policy of not negotiating with terrorists, a policy that aimed to prevent future kidnappings by not giving in to terrorist demands. The German government's failed rescue attempt at the Fürstenfeldbruck airbase resulted in the deaths of all the Israeli hostages. The aftermath of this event significantly changed the world's view on terrorism and led to increased security measures at international sporting events. Meir's decision was heavily criticized, both domestically and internationally, but it also set a precedent in counter-terrorism policy for many nations. Number 4. Operation Wrath of God. In response to the Munich massacre, Golda Meir authorized a covert operation named Operation Wrath of God. The primary aim was to track down and kill the individuals associated with the Munich attack, specifically those linked to the Black September organization. Under the direction of Meir, the Mossad, Israel's national intelligence agency, carried out a series of operations across Europe. This mission targeted key members of Black September, leading to the killing of several figures including, most notably, Ali Hassan Salameh, chief of operations for Black September, who was killed in Beirut in 1979. The operation spanned several years and was marked by its boldness and moral complexities, stirring international debate over the legality and ethics of such extrajudicial killings. Number 5. Handling of the Yam Kipper War. Golda Meir's prime ministership faced its severest test during the Yam Kipper War, which began unexpectedly on October 6, 1973, when Egypt and Syria launched a coordinated surprise attack against Israel. Intelligence had been provided by Ashraf Marwan, an Egyptian informant, indicating an imminent attack, but it was insufficiently acted upon. This oversight led to Egypt's successful crossing of the Suez Canal and Syria's advances in the Golan Heights, catching Israeli forces off guard. The war resulted in approximately 2,656 Israeli soldiers killed and over 7,250 wounded, sparking intense public and political backlash. The lack of preparedness was seen as a direct result of complacency at the highest levels of government, including Meir, which ultimately led to her resignation in April 1974 following severe public criticism and the recommendations of the Agranat Commission. Number 6. Neglect of social inequalities. During Golda Meir's tenure as Prime Minister, significant criticism was levied against her administration for neglecting the growing socio-economic disparities within Israel, especially affecting the Mizrahi Jewish immigrants. These communities, which had emigrated from Middle Eastern and North African countries, faced substantial hardships, including poorer living conditions, higher unemployment rates, and broader societal marginalization compared to their Ashkenazi counterparts. The focus of Meir's government on military and foreign affairs overshadowed the need for domestic reforms and exacerbated ethnic and economic divisions, contributing to increased social unrest. Number 7. The Lavan Affair. The Lavan Affair, originally a botched covert operation in Egypt in 1954 intended to sabotage US and British assets to undermine their relationships with Egypt, resurfaced politically during Golda Meir's time as foreign minister and continued to be a point of contention into her premiership. The affair involved the framing of Defense Minister Pinhas Lavan, which was part of a larger political struggle within the Israeli government. Meir's role in the subsequent inquiries and her staunch defense of the implicated parties drew substantial criticism and controversy, reflecting on her handling of sensitive political issues and the integrity of her government. Number 8. Racially charged remarks. One of the most controversial aspects of Golda Meir's premiership was her outright denial of Palestinian national identity. In a 1969 interview, she famously stated, "There was no such thing as Palestinians," implying that the historical Palestine was not recognized as a distinct entity with legitimate national aspirations by the Jewish people. This remark has echoed through decades, fueling significant international and domestic critique and complicating efforts to address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Her statement reflected a broader sentiment of denial of Palestinian rights and has been a pivotal quote in discussions about the conflict's historical roots and Israel's diplomatic stances. Number 9. Suppressing the Israeli Black Panthers. During the early 1970s, the Israeli Black Panthers, a group of Mizrahi Jews inspired by the American Black Panther movement, protested against racial and economic disparities in Israel. Formed in Jerusalem by activists like Reuven Abergel and Charlie Beiton, the group became known for their vocal protests which highlighted the socio-economic struggles of Mizrahi communities. In 1971, particularly during a large protest in Zion Square, Jerusalem, their demonstrations were met with severe police actions including arrests and alleged brutality, which were sanctioned by Golda Meir's government. Meir's administration was criticized for its heavy-handed approach, particularly after a notable instance where she reportedly dismissed the protesters' demands as trivial and criticized their methods during a face-to-face meeting. This response not only cemented her reputation for being stern and unyielding but also exacerbated racial tensions within Israeli society, reflecting a deep disconnect between the government and the Mizrahi populace. Number 10. The loneliness of power. Golda Meir's personal life was characterized by profound loneliness and sacrifice, exacerbated by her years in political office. Widowed in 1951 when her husband, Morris Meyerson, passed away, Meir continued to immerse herself in her work, often at the expense of her personal happiness. Her commitment was so intense that she once remarked, "I have given my life to the state of Israel, but my personal life, my personal happiness, has been taken away." This statement poignantly reflects the solitude and burden of leadership that she bore. Her tenure, while marked by significant political achievements, came with personal costs, as she navigated the challenges of leadership largely alone, maintaining a stoic facade despite the personal and political pressures that accompanied her role as Prime Minister. Number 11. Allegations of racial discrimination. Golda Meir's administration faced significant criticism over its alleged discriminatory practices against Mizrahi Jews, who were immigrants from Middle Eastern and North African countries. Accusations centered on the government's failure to provide adequate housing, education, and social services to these communities, which starkly contrasted with the resources available to Ashkenazi Jews of European descent. Such policies reportedly perpetuated a socio-economic divide that fueled racial tensions within Israeli society. Meir's perceived indifference to the plight of the Mizrahi Jews was highlighted during various public incidents, including her interactions with the Israeli Black Panthers, where her responses were seen as dismissive, further aggravating the community's grievances. Her tenure thus remains controversial for exacerbating ethnic divisions and overlooking the needs of a significant segment of Israeli society.